Right. Can you guys see it now? Right. Hmm. All right. So it looks like it's working now. That was weird. I have no idea what that was. Hmm. It's a bit strange. The ticket should still be running. Let's see. Yeah, that part's still going. You guys like just let me know. Make the tickets are working, right? The tickets are working. Yeah, tickets are working. All right. I was like, I don't understand why is this not kicking in for me. All right, so let's see here. First things first, let's go over and hold on one sec. YouTube is not cooperating now. Why are you not cooperating? Come on. It's one of those nights. You have everything laid out, planned, ready to go, and then all of a sudden what happens? Murphy steps in. Murphy messes it all up. All right, here we go. Let's put, whoop. Whoop, birds, you didn't like that too much. All right. All right, so looking at the day today, we had some big movers. We had dollar CAD. Finally, this sucker moved. Again, going to 110. Obviously, on oil weakness, we can see that oil was kind of a crazy number. But besides that, we really didn't have a whole lot of movement. Euro 22 up, pound dollar 2, dollar yen 57, although it could have been much worse. 43, 111, -1, -40, and -68. So another blunted day for the pound yen. The birds just knocked their thing off. Lovely guys. All right, looking at the data today. So non-farm was basically as forecast. It was a little tiny bit less, which is pretty crazy. Um, just a little tiny bit, right? So we'll go across and we'll award the winner. So it was below 140, even though it was like the skin of your teeth. Okay. So you guys should kind of see, you should see some pip chips on that one. So there you go. Entered in. Looks like there were 6 entered in this contest. I think there was four people that were on that side. So you guys just got a bunch more pip chips that if you were on that side. I don't know if it like informs you. I'm not sure. Um, Not sure how it worked. James took a jump. I don't remember what you guys said yesterday. I can't really see it. I'm not sure how it works. But you just got awarded them. So that one's a little bit hard to see. But man, it was close. It was super close. But I mean, really, the story of the day today was crude oil. I mean, again, we had additional surplus yet again. And it's just cranking down, man. It's just going. I wanted to bring that up first today and cover crude before we dump in anything else. I mean, look at this thing. We are just, basically. Will this pop it up? Yeah. Let's see. Move this over. I mean, look where we're at. Interesting. Looking at this on a daily, pretty interesting, right? I mean, spike up, obviously, we saw that one again. We knew that one before. Coming back down again, there was all these little areas in here, and we talked about those. And again, we talked about basically where we are right now is more or less where we were watching for, right? Last night we mentioned 5270 or 5250 is kind of where you were, kind of wondering about it, right? And again, I think the low was actually 52.33. So we're sitting inside of this demand zone, and unfortunately, it's not a tiny zone. It's kind of quite a large zone. Actually, it retraces all the way back over here to January. Was the last time it was that low. So it's kind of interesting. Again, one of the things that you typically see is like what we had last time was we had oil prices that were rising as we went into the recession. This time it's a little bit different. If we actually go into a recession or not. But you're seeing oil prices just falling. And again, they are lower than what they were, before the whole kind of the oil refineries kind of blowing up. So interesting picture where we are now. Like I said, again, looking at it, kind of zooming back out again, you kind of get a true sense of kind of where price has been. And again, looking down and kind of like, it's really kind of going back to this level here is really where we're at. But again, we've had 1, we've had 2, we've had 3. Will it hold the next time is the big question. And I honestly, I don't know if it can. again, it's kind of pulling back right now, but one of the things you guys need to be cautious about is look at this zone right above where we are, right? And look at this little zone right here. Okay. Those are, can I change this? That would be kind of cool if I could. There we go. Look at that. You have ascending wicks on the downside, and that's on a daily chart. So pretty interesting how that's set up. You know, if we can get back up into that area. If you guys aren't looking at that one, and that just happens to be right around 54 to 54.75. So that's on the daily. I mean, again, we could, drop it down a lower time frame, right? Drop it down to 4 hours, and you can kind of get even a kind of a little bit more detailed look at that one. And we could probably shrink it to about there, right? And again, that was that 4 hour hit that we saw on the way down. I think it was Carl. Carl, was it you? Yeah, it was Carl that was talking about, the overall market's kind of pulling down. And again, always take that step back and go look at it on bigger time frames. And once you've looked at the bigger time frames, you can kind of mark off big areas. And then what you can do is that's where you can start refining things back down again. So, I mean, this is one of those ones that's like, man, how would you get into this thing? I mean, it just pushed back down. I mean, it's kind of retracing. I mean, there was a nice little 4 hour retracement, right? And again, look at different time frames for, kind of good levels like this, right? This was a large push down. Oh, excuse me. Starting already. Retrace back up and then a push back down to the bottom side. So again, is there a clean area? There's a wick over wick here, but again, it's not as clean. You can always drop it down, go down to like a 3 hour, and you can say, all right, now you can kind of see something in here, right? That wick over wick, it does become a little bit more clear, and you guys can look at the, look at the actual push, right? Now you can say, okay. So if it does come up a bit, can I copy this? No, that would be, oh wait. No, that's a visual order. I have to do it again. But now you have something along the lines of this. Okay, another little area potentially where you can get some shorts in. All right. And again, that's down on the 3 hour. You can drop down on the 2 hour. Yep, still good. That one's not bad. Going down to the 1 hour, and you can see, same thing. Still pretty valid. All right, so when you're looking to get into things, always go high and then kind of refine and go lower and lower and lower for zones. In this case, this one is going down to, potential shorts coming in at 53.81 up to 54.13. So refine it a bit down from where we were before, and it actually gave us a zone prior to what we saw before. Not a bad little level. Now, we did have a bit of basing here. Not as concerned about this one. Again, it's kind of doing a cup and a handle trying to break, and it'll go up. I mean, you guys can even see there's a wick over wick on this one too. You guys will see there's a little wick over wick right here too on the smaller time frame. Okay, so there are a couple little areas in here that we could potentially use as a bouncer. And the way that you would handle those is you look for, basically, if you know that that's where it is, what you do is you just go down to a lower time frame and look for one of those color changes. Okay, color changes are exactly the same. It's not just a currency specific phenomenon. It happens on all time frame, all pairs, all time frames, all assets. So again, if you can hit that zone and start getting a color confirmation on something smaller, or 10, 5, 10, 15-minute chart, that'll give you confirmation that we've now turned flip and have pushed back down again. All the price was doing was looking to grab some more orders and kind of continue to drop through the bottom. All right, so that's just kind of a one example, but again, with oil, there's a lot of supply zones right above where we are. So again, I continue to see this pair going up. Interesting thing too, I saw on this one, it was 85% of clients are net long right now, oil. So if 85% of people are long, why is it going down, right? Well, think about it. I thought that was a pretty interesting statistic. And I even said it yesterday. Yesterday it was like 65% of people are long. And I was like, oh, check this out. 60% of people are long. Wonder what it's going to do tomorrow. And it just continued to, collapse, go lower. All right, so let's jump back over the currency realm. Looking into tomorrow, okay, this is where we have the other ISM, the non-manufacturing PMI. And you guys saw what the manufacturing PMI did on Tuesday. Lots of movement, right? So we'll see what this one is able to bring in. Two things of note, though. One, you have this one, again, they miss pretty much all the time. You guys can see they always miss. Again, this one says above 50, the same thing, but you guys can see that the forecast is much higher. The market is probably priced in a little bit below this forecast number, although, just because one misses doesn't mean that the other one always will.
I was going to go back and look at it, but I don't have it up. And again, last time you can see that they had a pretty nice, they had a pretty nice beat last time. So I'm expecting it will be lower than the forecast, but I don't know that it's going to be as. I mean, I'm going to say the manufacturing PMI was a huge difference. So just keep an eye on that one. But again, this is probably going to be like throwing more fuel on the fire for tomorrow. Just FYI. Again, if it comes in really bad, worse than the expectation, then again, it'll be another down day. And then, at that point, everybody's going to be like, oh, the world's coming to an end. Yeah. Yeah, you guys know how that goes. And then tomorrow night, retail sales for Aussie. I'm excited about that one. I like that one. That's one of my favorite Aussie trades. So we'll see what we can get out of that one. As you saw before, obviously we had the rate cut in Aussie, and it sent the markets flying. Again, this is supposed to be higher than the previous, so it's a little bit different than some of the other ones we've seen lately. But again, if this one misses, it's already been cut down. Again, if the forecast for retail sales is lower, it coincides with the rate cut. But again, that's pretty negative news. So again, we'll see things like the Aussie dollar continue to fall, and even the Aussie yen continue to fall. Okay, so there's a couple different trade setups, and probably, like I said, it'll be the same situation where we have the Aussie New Zealand, which is a little bit more muted. But we'll see how that kind of folds in. And again, that's tomorrow night. We'll be, we unfortunately will not be on at that time. Tomorrow I have a game again, so we will do a 7 to 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. I was going to bring that up at the end, but I'll talk about it now. So we'll be able to talk about it and kind of see what we have on the 4-hour levels before this news release, but we won't have charts go during this time. Okay, I'm going to move it up again tomorrow. We'll do the 7 8 tomorrow again. So that's what we got for tomorrow. So let's just jump into charts. Okay, let's go back over here. How about that move, by the way? You guys see this? It's like, yeah, we need something to move. We need something to move. And again, we kind of blew right through this level. It touched once, came up, and then literally, here's where we are now, right? And then here's where we were last night. Look at that move. It's just absolutely enormous. We'll talk about that. But again, pretty big miss in oil. All right. So look at this pair. Aussie yen. Obviously, nice movement, right? This was another day that was, pretty much straight down. When we met last night, again, it's always good to give you guys a reference, right? This is where we are. Oops, I lost the cursor. There we go. All right, you guys can see right here, this is at 21, right? And we go back, and you're looking at 21 right here. Now, a little bit of a pop, and what did this pop do, right? This was a big push down to end up meeting this profit target, right? And that's, again, this was the news, and this reversed on us right before the ISM data came out, okay? And again, remember I told you, if you're up that much, obviously, get yourself out of a large position like ISM. Had you gotten yourself out, you got yourself out at the low. Price rallied. And again, this is a slow grind rally, right? But here's what it ran into. Okay, you guys know how to mark these off. There to there. Okay, and what did we hit off of? Bam, down. Almost no heat in this trade. Now, a couple different ways you could have taken this one. You could have taken it back to the start of the move, or same thing, you could have waited till you had some level breaks, which would have been down in here. Again, had you even been at the low, it went up a little bit and went down a little bit, and we're still at the same exact point. So, at this point inside of the Aussie's hour, again, you'd be out of this trade. The risk on it was very small. It wasn't very much risk whatsoever. But again, from the hours of basically like 2 a.m. till about 5 a.m., this thing just went straight down. You didn't really, it was pretty easy one to get. And again, this is a set and forget type trade. Okay. It was a 9-pip risk. Okay. And your return to right now is about 60. Okay. And again, had you still been in this one, if it didn't hit your profit target, you're still at 60. Okay. Let's move this here. Did I do the top one right? Yeah, that was fine. Come on, click. There we go. Okay. Now again, basing, large pop, look for the retest, get back in at the same level, continue the short to the downside, and there you go. 10 to 1 risk to reward ratio trade on that one. Okay. And again, that was a set and forget type trade. Okay. You have to be willing to, put on these 10 pip trades. All right. Now, had you run it back down to the start of this move, okay, it would have been a little bit smaller profit, but you still would have had about 44. So you still would have been over 4 to 1 risk to reward ratio. Still not bad, right? Okay. But again, like I said, there was no reason to really stop it there. You're talking about basically the European Open. Shouldn't really affect this too much, and it didn't. And then I just continued to push and then spent the whole rest of the day here. So pretty quick mover, but again, off of a 30-minute zone. You guys can see it as well. It did come up and it snagged it right here on the 4-hour. And again, you would have looked at this, saw the descending wicks, and known that there was something in there. You would have dropped it down to refine it on the 30-minute. Here's your 30-minute refinement right here, and that's exactly what it ran into. Gotta move this thing. Put it that way. It's driving me nuts. That was a line. There you go. All right. So that's what we have right now. So in this one, like I said, for the last 16 hours, it's basically done nothing. After it went down, it's basically just stopped, hasn't really moved. One thing we do need to be cautious about, you guys can see, right down here is where we start having kind of the overall kind of downward side profit targets off of like kind of some of the bigger the longer term trades. Be cautious. This is a pretty nice run up, right? We had what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days straight up off of this level. So again, once it hits into the 71 kind of 40-ish range, be cautious. Okay, I would not be taking shorts into that area. The last time it was there, and it's been a while, right? We're talking about back. I don't know why it's slow now. I lost my crosshair again. The crosshair is just not. No, I don't want that. But basically, this candle right here. Okay. There we go. Okay. September 3rd. So you're talking about a month ago was the last time prices here. And look at the rally up. Okay. So just be cautious with that one. The trade, again, this was a late night, early morning trade if you were able to take that one. Okay. Looking at Aussie New Zealand. And again, by the way, we will be using that level tomorrow as well. That was a pretty valid level. Same type of movement. This one just didn't really get the retest. It just kind of continued to push lower and lower and lower. And again, this is that Aussie weakness, that we saw across the board. A lot of it had to do with the rate, the rate cut, and like I said, not really much to grab onto here. You didn't see it on the same, you didn't see the same 4-hour level. This zone was not a descending. This is a completely opposite one. So not necessarily the highest quality right there. So you wouldn't, you probably wouldn't, be taking that one. Okay. So I would not have gotten any trade setups on this one. Looking at the Aussie dollar, though. Aussie dollar, okay. This came back up. And you guys remember, too. Remember, we were kind of over in here on the bottom side, right? Right? Here's time. You look at the bottom, it's 21. Bring it back, and 21 is right here, okay? So the difference in this one is when it did pull back up in the other pair, it only came up to here, and then today it ground up. This one had the fast pop down, came back up, and then it had kind of stabilized itself. And again, where was it going to go to? I mean, it could have came all the way up, but it didn't. It started giving these kind of lower lows. And again, we got a red, green, red right here, right around when the other one was starting to collapse. And what was it really collapsing into? Not much. And this one literally went right back down to the bottom. So a little bit harder of an entry. If you had to take these two, the Aussie yen was a much better trade, or an easier. I can't say much better because they both moved to the downside. But it was a much nicer, much easier setup. It's something that everybody, if you've watched me 5 times, you guys should know that that's a zone that we'd be willing to take to the downside. And again, that has to go back to the analysis on the 4-hour. All right. Now, where we are now, I would say I'm probably a bit more bearish in this one. We've pulled back. It's based here before. If you look in the 4-hour, again, we're in a zone there. It's trying to grind higher. I mean, it doesn't really have a whole lot of conviction. If you're looking at tonight, right, we have a trade balance, but trade balance is not really a huge mover. I mean, it's even considered, it's considered an orange here. We may get some movement out of it because the markets are a little bit sensitive right now. But for the most part, I mean, unless this number is a huge miss, I don't see us having huge movement. And again, it's kind of, stabilizing itself. So nothing really. I'm not looking to jump into this one right now. Again, if it is wrong, even looking to the top side, I don't really have anything here until it goes all the way back up to 67.75. And to the downside, I mean, these two are exactly the same bottom. So they're really, I wouldn't say that there's a whole lot of buyers sitting right below. They've kind of established those orders and then re-cleared them. So there's a little bit of hold to the downside. All right. As well as that would take us, I'll just measure it. Where is it? You're talking about a 40 pip drop on that one. Okay. Before we were able to run into that. So not sure we're going to get too much movement on that one. Now, looking at Pound Aussie basically pulled itself right back inside the channel. Okay, what did it do? It hit the kind of start here, popped up, went almost all the way back to the top of the blue line, and then it's kind of stabilized sideways. So here's the 21, and the other 21 is right here, right at the bottom. Okay, so last night we talked about being at the bottom, being in this demand zone, and it literally respected it, came off and went almost all the way back up to the top target. So Again, still that kind of sideways channeling. Looking at this one again, this is one of those ones. It's like, oh, just look at that wick, right? Look at this candle right here. We'll put this here. I mean, look at this thing. I mean, talk about ugly. I mean, in here it doesn't look bad, but look at this candle on the daily. The body is less than 30% of the overall candle. It's basically nothing but wicks. I mean, it's very tiny. Again, a lot of that is because price came down here, spiked up, came back up, and then kind of ended over here. So just a not very great candle, especially for analysis on the daily. Again, you guys can see some basing, and again, it's kind of where it pulled from, right? We'll see. And again, remember that was built off of these two. It was built off of the high and low here. Okay. All right. In this one, I'm probably a bit more bearish. We did get a failure to go higher, right? We had a one here, and then another one here, and then another here. So we are putting, lower highs in, which again, I kind of like that. I like to start seeing some lower lows, and we're starting to get that. We're starting to break some levels over here on this side, but we don't have anything that's super, nothing with a whole lot of conviction, for lack of a better word. I'm not seeing a lot of pushing, and again, it's spent a lot of time here just sideways. So it does look great on obviously the 4 hour where you're like, oh, look at this, gigantic candles. But yeah, it's still not too much. We'll see. Let's see what the number is. Yeah, it basically came in almost exactly, right? So again, wouldn't expect too much movement overnight. All right. Looking at euro pound. So I thought I saw some down here. I thought this was a very interesting quote today, right? The euro ready to bypass Johnson and grant Brexit extensions. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, yeah, we'll just keep extending it. I mean, it's, I don't know. I mean, just talking about an absolute nightmare. It's like, yeah, you're going to leave us. They weren't happy about them leaving, and now like, yeah, we'll just give you an extension. We don't need you to give an extension. And they're like, what? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, right? It's kind of like, what does this even mean, right? Yeah, everything dropped today. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's just whatever. Not everything. I mean, this didn't drop today, right? I mean, this is what you got. Just sideways movement. So the market has no idea either. So the euro is like, hey, we don't need the UK. We don't need the Great Britain to, for Brexit to happen. We'll extend their thing. We don't need them. It's like, okay, but it's just kind of weird, right? So where we are in this one, like I said, I mean, we're kind of sitting at the top side. If you look across, look on the daily, you can see that the last time we were up in this area between 89.20 and 89.70, it was an area where price had pulled back in the downtrend and then kind of exploded to the downside. So that's what we're pulling back to. Obviously, we are in an uptrend, right? We're an uptrend confirmed at this point because, it's sideways up confirmed because the red obviously is engulfed, right? We were in an uptrend setup, and again, that's where we price pulled back down in here to grab some orders. Again, rallied up. Things that worry me about this one is, again, here's your set of highs, then we have a lower set of highs, and we're kind of at one right now. So if it doesn't make it any higher and it starts to push back down again, you're starting to get some pretty consecutive highs here. Now, I'm sorry, lower consecutive highs. Looking at it on the 30-minute, though, it kind of breaks it down a little bit more, and you can see, yeah, here's the high and then the lows. But really, has it moved that much? Not really, right? I mean, I can stretch it out, but you're talking about 25 pips top to bottom is what it's basically spent from yesterday before chart school to where we are right now. I mean, you're talking about what? 15 pips top to bottom in this one. Boris talking about suspending Parliament again. Is he really? I mean, I think the Supreme Court over there ruled it was legal last time. I mean, I guess if it worked one time, why not do it again, right? But yeah, so obviously there's a lot of confusion. Nobody has any idea. There's no conviction whatsoever. Really on this one, I mean, the best way to handle this one is kind of figure out, when are obviously the London Open is going to be a big thing, but tomorrow you have some services, right? It's considered orange. It's not really great, but, I don't see him talking necessarily. And then going into, Friday, there's nothing even early morning. So really it's all going to be news, right? And when I say news, obviously this is all news, but it's going to be like whether a tweet or a comment or an article or an interview or something like that. And again, picking some of those maybe, yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Yeah, we'll extend you forever. You can just stay part of the European Union because, your country didn't, vote to do that. vote for you to leave. So, we'll see, right? But as far as where you're looking at for trading, again, lower highs, higher lows. It's kind of consolidating, and literally for 24 hours, it's been stuck within a 15 pip range. So look at the other opportunities. I mean, obviously the Aussie was good last night, but there's just nothing in this one right now. Okay, now what would I say? Who's stronger on this one? Because again, I did mention before that for the ISM data, we were using the euro, not the pound, because it was obviously stronger. The pound was weaker. And with it being weak dollar data, you don't want to go weak, weak. You want to go strong, weak. Okay. So with that being said, again, I would say in this case, we're still probably in a euro is the stronger of the two in this case. So again, you do something similar. You'd be looking more toward, if you're expecting the data to be weak, you'd be looking more for the euro dollar versus the pound dollar. Okay. Going across the euro again. All right, so you can see we had a pretty big down draw on this one, right? At least on the daily. Again, we've gone from 1,860 pips down to 117.41. It's kind of where we are right now. As we mentioned last night, one of the big things we wanted with this pair is we wanted to be able to clear this demand zone, right? We wanted to go through the purple zone. We wanted to create some space. Again, it's a green triangle. We wanted to kind of trace the green triangle, get some white space in there. Not green, obviously, but I'm using that so you can see it. But get some white space below. So what if we had, again, you can see this is the time where we are right now. Look at the bottom, we're at 21. Kind of go back, and you're looking at right about here. Okay, so all we did was really ride the top of this. We pulled back, grabbed some orders, and then pushed to the bottom side. And again, at that point, we've just kind of, slowly ground lower and lower and lower. Now, we are not out of the zone yet, okay? As you can see, for the last 16 hours, it's been kind of a lot of indecision. It's down, up, and then open and close is the same, okay, for about 16 hours. And you can see what it looks like on the lower time frame. It's the same thing. I mean, it came down, grabbed more orders, didn't go as low, bounced off the bottom, came up, just grabbed just the very, very top of this, came just a little bit below, right below. And again, this has basically been a supply and, basically a support and resistance trap, okay? As soon as we go lower, boom, turn, okay? Come back down here, they're trying to front run it, boom, comes up, again, get you over here. And then it comes back down here again, and then it comes back up in the middle. So it's really been kind of bouncing back and forth. Not a whole lot really that's even necessarily worth trading. I mean, you're talking about, it's been about 30 pips, the bounces. The failed ones are only about 20. If you take top to bottom, it was about 37. So there was a little bit you could have got in from last night. Again, not the sweetest zone. I mean, it came down, ground right back up, and it really just kind of grabbed the bottom. You may or may not have gotten filled, and to me, they would have been a little bit risky in my eyes. This was not a trade that I necessarily would have been interested in taking, just because you don't know, is it going to go back down and ride the bottom, right? Are we going to go from here and move 20 pips and just ride the bottom again? Is that worth it based off the risk? No. You're a little bit less than a 2-to-1, so not really. And then again, we knew there was going to be buyers somewhere in here. I mean, if it broke this level, was it going to get stopped here? Was it going to get stopped here? Was it going to get stopped down here? And it kind of got stopped down just slightly lower than that. So it hasn't cleared the area yet. I would be looking to take shorts once it does, once it kind of gives itself a little bit of space, and then when it retraces back up again. I think that's the best bet for this one. Like I said, I don't think this is a pair necessarily you want to force. Not that, I mean, again, it's the euro yen. I think we will get some bouncing around tomorrow. Obviously, the USM or the ISM data in the US is going to affect the overall US stock market, which will affect the yen. And that will give us some movement in this one. So just be a little bit cautious with that if you're going to be looking to trade this one. But even on the 4 hour, I don't really love anything to the top side. I mean, again, there's a little bit of a zone here, but not my favorite. Not with what everything else we've had. Again, tomorrow I would be looking at the two main pairs. So euro dollar, this is one of them. So where you can see again, euro dollar is grinding down. Okay, on the daily. Okay, we are in a downtrend setup situation, right? Again, the red was outside. It is not sideways. It is a green, so it is looking for pullbacks. Where we are right now, again, you guys can see there was a single wick here, and we're kind of in like a little bit of a quasi supply zone, kind of. It's not really the best. My one son would say it's good, but it's not the best. It's kind of where we are now, and you guys can see we really didn't do much, right? I mean, here we are here. We can go back all the way. God, what? Almost 12 hours. It just hasn't moved. So, basically what it is there's something above this, and there's sellers sitting here. Whatever this one ran into, those sellers have come down slightly. So, I'd like it if there was a little bit more of a zone here, a little bit, something that's a little bit more definable, a little bit easier to see. Unfortunately, there's really just some small stuff, like nothing really great in there. Um, I really like this zone much better up here up top. I feel much safer with it. The 109.91. Obviously, that's about 30 pips higher than where we are. With ISM, obviously the ISM data can bounce this 91 up into that zone. I'd hope overnight. I'd like them to make some kind of comments overnight and this to rally up. If we can be in that area for ISM, then yes, I'd be looking to short most likely beforehand. But otherwise, I'm gonna have to wait for a bounce into it. If you look to the left from where price is right now, there's nothing but a racetrack right here. So I mean, again, it should have no problems, kind of shooting back up again. And 30 for something like ISM is a small bump. That's not even anything too crazy. So um, I'd just be a bit cautious with that. And again, it is looking for orders. That's why we see green. It's just not in an area where there's anything there until we get higher. Okay, so could it flip in here because of some magical force? Yeah, sure, I'm sure it could. But I'm going to wait till it gets higher. That's a higher probability trade for me if I can actually short it inside of a demand or inside of a supply zone. Okay. I love that Boris is talking about suspending Parliament again. You can try. It's so funny. All right. And somebody actually asked me earlier, should they be shorting this pair? Not yet. You see this flattening, you're like, oh, it's not going any higher. Yeah, there's just no traders right now. Wait till the European market steps in. They may start to push this back up again once they look like they're in charge. They're in control more of the whole, Brexit thing. Even though they're not, but once they feel like they are, again, they may, people may perceive that as strength for them, and you get some, a little bit of rallying action, especially before ISM, which would be good. Okay. All right. Let's see. Euro Aussie. I actually don't love that setup right now for today. All right. So Euro Aussie. Still in the zone. We talked about this last night. We're in the zone. It started to kind of leave, right? We were here. Okay. Going back to 19 was right here. So we had just left the area last night. It pulled right back in, stayed inside of that zone, kind of skirted around the top and went sideways. So again, it was trying to rally higher. It tried a second time to rally higher. It's still having problems in that zone. Had you taken this zone, again, you may have gotten stopped out just based off the fringes off the top here. But again, I wouldn't say there's really too much of an entry in this one. I'd still say that I'm probably short. It is nearing the top of the zone where it could breach it and go higher. At this point, it's basically eaten up. It's just to see. It's the real question is how many of the buyers did they kind of spook, or how many buyers have they exhausted trying to get that thing to pop up? Okay. It popped and then it just did nothing for hours and hours and hours and hours. So, not a lot of movement. This would be another one of those ones that I'd be looking at. This is actually one of the pairs that I do like. Also for Aussie News, for Aussie News tomorrow, again for retail sales, this would be one of the other pairs you could trade it against. Okay. Just because obviously there's not European news, so you can kind of trade it against the euro. If you don't want to, again, go with the Aussie dollar, Aussie yen will both involve the U.S. market. Euro Aussie obviously does not. So this is a viable trade setup for tomorrow. We can kind of see where we're at before retail sales number is being printed. Come on. There we go. All right. All right. So nice little push down on the daily on the pound yen. Again, we saw that it only moved what? I guess it's about 76 now, but it was 68 when we started. It's continuing to push the downside. Again, it's giving us a bit of, obviously a little pound weakness, a little yen strength in here. But it is getting to the point now, again, where we're starting to have to worry. At 131.25, about 50 pips from where we are right now, is where we had not only a gap, but then a pretty nice rally off of it. All right. Now, looking at the ATR on this one, we can see that the ATR is kind of right at 112. So 50 pips is, even on a blunt today, it should be able to do 50 pips in one day. All right. This one has not given us as many entries in. I mean, this is kind of just, kind of junky. I mean, yes, it did come off a zone. If you look horizontal across, it was a pop. It did retrace. There's a little bit of entry in, but watching this thing bounce back and forth would have been pretty painful in your account. So not something I really would have recommended today. And again, we are in that downtrend. I think the best bet is going to be to get that downtrend set up in there. And again, we did have a bit of a pullback and a push down. We'll see how low it can go. And then again, descending candles here, a little basing here, a little bit of green area right here. So definitely some on the way down. There has been some supply zones put in, but we need to get a little bit of separation to the downside. So we'll see tomorrow if we can get some news that kind of bumps us a little farther. I would really like it to be in this zone and then see what it's going to do. It's either going to break the red or it's going to start a retrace and start going back up looking for more orders. And it may actually do it on, it could potentially do it back up in the green area. And maybe where we kind of come back up to. Although, like I said before, we've already had 3 touches. We've just been pushing farther and farther away from it at this point. But I do think 130.70 is going to be a big kind of telltale sign. If again, that'd be an official break of that zone. We'll see what it's able to do. All right. But right now, I mean, again, looking at 4 hour, we have a clean zone up top. We have a little bit of descending right here. Looking to the downside, what do we have? We've really got this area, right? This is that one. This is that same orange line, right? Again, the zone starts at 130, 132 to 130.80. Okay, it's about a 40 pip zone down there. And looking across here, as you can see, we can shrink this a little bit into there. Okay. That's the basic level over there, hit off of. So that's kind of what I'd be, a little bit cautious with. All right. Let's put something here so we can see where the top of that is. There we go. I'll know that it's a different figure, and then I can look to the left. All right. But again, what are we doing? Consolidating. Downtrend. Straight across the bottom. A little bit of wedge formation. I think we'll go a little bit lower. It's just how much lower. Again, 50 pips. It should be able to cover. All right. Looking at pound dollar. Now, pound dollar is obviously on the docket for tomorrow for the ISM news. Still between the rock and the hard place on this one, though. See, this is one of those scenarios where it is a downtrend setup on the daily, but again, it's right into a demand zone, so it kind of invalidates itself. And again, we've been channeling. We mark these 2 areas off, and again, boom, 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 and then again, boom. We touched it right. If I extended this here, I'll extend it for you guys so you can see it. Right there. You can see, boom, boom. Okay. Let's see, we got what? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So what I'm thinking about is the one thing I don't like about this one to the top side. So I'm starting this zone for me is obviously going down in kind of its grade. It's been hit pretty deeply at least twice. We've had a couple small touches. So it's kind of it's lining up to where it's, when it breaks, it's going to be like, yep, look at it. I mean, it's been hit multiple times. Problem is, right above that, we have this little pullback, right? And again, that pullback was, hitting this wick behind the wall, this little kind of secret room back here, which that area is right above where we are. So I'm trying to figure out if we'll get enough clearance to be able to take a bounce off that on a break. Feeling like we probably won't. I mean, what have we got here? 30, 40. Yeah, it's not going to really give us, I don't think it's going to give us enough clearance above to break before it runs into it. All right, so at this point, what I'd like to see is I like to get a little bit of the dollar weakness overnight. I like to see a little bit of pound strength, and we'll see who knows where it's coming from, but if we can get some back up again, if we can, get into news time being in this area, I think that's probably, that's probably where it's probably where I'd be looking to go. Be looking to take a short if we can be up in this area before ISM. And again, what you guys saw the other day is a lot of things rallied literally like an hour before the news was released. If we had that same type of rally, then again, take some type of similar trade on this one. Take it short if we're rallying into that zone. If it rallies back down, it's a little bit harder of a case. I think if anything, it'll rally up at this point. It's kind of what I'm thinking. Just looking at this chart. My big hesitation to the downside, though, is this is a pretty nice level. Although it's pierced it, we just put a higher low in, and it's a pretty nice little kind of takeoff point. I'm just afraid this blue is going to hold again for anything. So I think I'm leaning more towards more bullish on this one than anything else. Okay, looking at pound New Zealand. Now, pound New Zealand, obviously not a ton of reason to be able to trade this one tomorrow. Obviously, no New Zealand news. Obviously, the Aussie retail sales number will affect this one. So again, it is something that is more tradable tomorrow night. You can see there was obviously no reaction tonight because to the trade balance, because the trade balance is, again, it basically came in as expected. It was already priced in. Not even the same country, but obviously, what happens to one, they expect that the other one has the same numbers. This one kind of had the same scenario that we've talked about. Yes, it's had some movement, right? Some pops. Look on the 4 hour. We had a big drawdown. Basically ran all the way right back up again. Came right back up. You guys can see this popped down, shot all the way up, came right back, and then it's really just kind of based sideways. We are sideways down confirmed at this point, or sideways, I guess, downtrend. Yeah, it's basically sideways down. It's not past, so it's not confirmed yet, but. Trying to think if we're going to clear this. I don't know if this is going to be clearable right now. Okay, price dropped very, very fast and then immediately took off. There's some hidden. So here, let me move this out of the way. So here's what's behind this. Here's what is behind lucky door number 1. Okay, so that's what it's kind of sitting in, right? It's this wick over wick. Now, this wick over wick has been abused. I mean, it's been up, down again, shot it away. If there's orders in here, I mean, literally these orders are like sitting right here, right? I mean, it's like, they're like in this tiny little like blue thing. I'll make it blue. I mean, they're like sitting in that very, very little tiny area there is what they're sitting in. But every time the prices touch that zone, it's literally launched itself off. So it's kind of an interesting scenario, Finally made it. I'll catch the rerun for the first part. Yep. We awarded you your pip chips, James, because you got you picked under, even though it was close. We still gave it to you. You know what we should do for the next contest like that? We should do it. It has to be red or green. Is it going to be red or is it going to be green? If it's black, it's a wash. That way it's more like like a casino. Like they add the blue, or I'm sorry, not the blue. They add the green wheel just so they can have the odds in their favor. Not that I get anything for taking your pip chips, but it's still kind of funny. Yeah, unfortunately, no real setup on this one. Let's look at New Zealand dollar. Close as good as a mile. Yeah. Hey, if it was like Nadex, right? It has to be 1 penny above, right? And you were good. Now, if it was the price is right, obviously we failed. Because it was definitely above. Or it was definitely below. But I mean, you did good. You did good. All right, so New Zealand dollar. Okay, New Zealand dollar, right now we are sitting up inside of a supply zone. Okay, this is a supply zone we were able to take a trade off of the other day and again, get out before ISM manufacturing. So we're in a good place for this one. If we're in the same place tomorrow morning, it's basically the same type of trade setup. Are you looking to short this? Again, there's enough time right now where, again, we got about 12 hours. It's a little bit early to get in right now. This is not a Nadex tradable pair, so this is something you will have to step into the currency market if you're gonna trade it. But again, scenario is the same thing. 4 hour demand, 4 hour supply zone. Pretty nice pop. And I would say looking at the 30-minute, looking over here, there's really not a ton that I would say, oh it's going to stop because of this, or it's going to stop because of this. I mean, really, you're probably safe for profit targets, at least down into this area, right? If not a little bit further, right? And again, it was 64 pips before. It's probably 55 to 60 pips. It's still giving you, a pretty decent run on that one. Now you can wait for some type of a confirmation to leave the area if you want. But again, like I said, we're 12 hours early for this one. If news was now, I love this. Would be all over it, but we're not quite. Again, we're a little bit early. you're the first one to the party, right? If you get into it right now. But again, is a valid setup. Downtrend setup on the daily. It is in a daily zone here. Further revision is showing you that that zone is valid here. So everything matches up on the charts. It's just a bit early. And again, New Zealand isn't my favorite pair when there's not news associated with it. But again, it is valid downtrend setup, 4 hour, and then refinement on the 30-minute. Okay. Looking at dollar Swiss. Yeah, it's so funny. Close as a good smile. All right. So look at this thing. Down, straight up again, and pull back again. So this thing is all over the place. It is literally all over the place. Now, again, when you're picking targets, you always go off the start of the move, and look what we just happened to run into. Look at that. He just happened to bounce off the same area where we started to see descending candles. Okay. What time did that happen? That was a 7 a.m. thing. It's too early for non-farm. Was there news this morning that sent this up in the air? Oh no, it's at 8. Yeah, okay. So that it's at the right time. Cross. Yeah, it's at the right time. Yeah, see how this like look 8:10, right? News came out at 8:15. What did price do right here at 8:10? 8:10 is the green one. Right there. This is 8:10. What did it do at 8:10? Spiked all the way up. Had to short this and get a discount on. But again, the move, it kind of came down by 11 o'clock. This move had completely happened. You're talking about 35 pips. So, anything out of the money would have been a bit difficult. I mean, for Nadex. But again, price was as expected. It even came in as black on here. So, again, any of those big news breakout strategies and things like that, they're meant for when they miss. This was not necessarily a miss. But it looks pretty impressive, these two greens, right? And again, that was last night where we were. Okay. Yeah, this move up, right? Yeah, this was overnight. This is where we were. Yeah, this started at like 1 a.m. in the morning. And then this was the kind of lower piece of it. Yep. But again, what did you go off of? You went off of 4 hour ascending candles. So interesting setup. Not something I would take, but I'm just not a big fan of the pair. But you made money on Earth, so that's what matters. Yeah, just not enough movement for me. And I'm definitely not up at 2 o'clock in the morning to be messing with that one. That is not one that I will set for yet. All right, so look at this one. Explosion. But what did it go off of? Well, look at that. Look at that. So here's where we were last night. Right? Here we are at 21:30. And here's 21:30 right here. So now, there's where we told you that your target would be. Okay. Oops, not that one. Right? Told you that this was a nice profit target. Okay. What did I tell you guys about this? This was the initiation of the gap. Okay, so we watch price come down. Again, there's orders where the gap takes off and where it lands, and this is where it landed. Okay. Was there anything clean, at least up until here? No. At that point, it was just kind of wicks, reaching for something. The first clean level was all the way back up top. So this was probably the trade of the day. Okay. Your risk in this trade was 13 pips. And your target on this one, 107. Okay. You double dip this one. Take your crystal ball. Pretty funny though, right? I mean, that's what I marked off last night. I mean, there's the gap. Gotta love that one. And that was a nice gap too, right? And I said there's all this junk. Let's hope it spikes down or spikes back up again. But if it goes into this zone, I said, mapped it off. Here's bottom, there's top. Boom, boom, boom. Risking 13 to make 107. Now, where we are now in this pair, okay, I'm actually more bearish. Okay, I actually like the zone that it's in. I feel that this is, last time we had price over here, I mean, this thing took off. Okay, now it's not all the way up. Obviously, between the two reds is the best area, but this is a pretty nice little base here, right? It based and went down. I mean, it did it did test into the area pretty well. If we can get some type of confirmation, or break a couple of these levels in here, I could like this one. I could definitely be in this one for ISM for a short tomorrow. Obviously, the CAD has the ability to move when it needs to. I just feel that tomorrow we can completely counterbalance all the data that we had today if we get something that is hugely dollar weakening. Like if we get another big surprise, I feel like we could definitely get a spike to the downside. So, again, I love the 4-hour zones. That's what this bottom one was here, and that's where the top one was. It wasn't all this kind of choppy stuff. So I'm glad that all this just got wiped out because, and again, technically in your analysis, you got to look left. You can't look left and down. You just look left. Okay? It's like a mountaintop. You can look from here. If you're standing on this side, you don't know that any of this stuff happened. So literally you go from here and then you start looking at this. And you go down and you go across and you're looking at this. So all this junk has now officially been wiped out, which is awesome. Okay, so now we can start, talking about different zones. Again, any profit target to the downside, I'm still looking down here at 131.84. To the top side on the daily, 133.70. Again, that's a big one. It's only 50 pips from where we are. So with ISM tomorrow, if we can get this spike up, right, 50 pips, which it can absolutely do, then that gives us a supply zone on the daily that we can get involved with. Okay. But this was a nice little trade setup today. Again, it was happening last night, right around the same time we talked about being in this bottom section. All right. All right. Dollar yen. Come on, you can load. When that's loading, I'm going to get some more coffee. Oh, look at that. That one worked out too. Right? Came all the way back down, hit the bottom, and then bounced off of it, right? So here we are at 21. There we were last night. So there was your first piece. And when it went down and continued to go all the way to the bottom. Same concept as price action on the oil chart too. Yep. Yeah, it doesn't change. Yep. It's not like it's like a currency specific thing or an oil thing or indices. It's just basically it's understanding reading price, I mean, you can do the same thing in real estate. I'm sure you could. I mean, really, if there's buyers and sellers of anything, you could do this. Think of it like this way. I mean, basically, all I'm doing with price action, again, price action is what it's called when it's put on a chart. But think of it like this way. Like if you guys have ever like bought grapes from the store, right? My first wife, she loved grapes. Like I would be like, hey, honey, seriously? Like, are they on sale this week? Like I would only buy grapes when they were on sale. She just was like, I don't care. I work. I'm gonna buy grapes. I'm like, okay, great. But I mean, like the grapes that she would want to buy were $2.99. Well, if you waited like 3 days later, when they're a little bit older, maybe you lose 1 or 2 grapes, but they would go down to $1.99. I'm like, that's a huge discount, right? That's basically saying my demand zone on grapes would be down at $1.99. Hers, she just didn't care, But eventually, like if they were like $3.99 or $4.99, she's not buying them either. There's a place where eventually she'll call it quits and be like, no, 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 I'm not interested in doing that, right? It's the same thing. You can say with your house, like, do you want to sell your house right now for X number of dollars? No, too much of a hassle. Okay, well, I'll give you X times $250,000, and you're like, Eventually, you run into an area where you are willing to sell it. That's just what it is. Oil indices, DQ. Yep, absolutely. Dairy Queen, all about it. When that temperature goes over 90, the demand zone is strong. Demand zone is strong. That's when I'm a buyer. Although I can't really say that because I'm technically a buyer all the time. But I will say this: you guys were joking around earlier this week about DQ, and like I don't have like an actual Dairy Queen store. It's just one in the mall. Like it's not like a big. We don't have like the big crazy ones. So they kind of it's like shared with like I don't know like a pretzel store or something. So it's like last time we were there, the only thing we could get was the chocolate one. And talking to James and like messing around, I was like, man, I could really go for one of those like strawberry dip cones. So I still haven't had the strawberry dip cone, but I was like, maybe it's fall now. Maybe they mix it up and maybe they don't have chocolate or maybe they have less. Or you know what? I think it's DQ and Orange Julius. I think that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is. So maybe because it's getting, more fallish, they're going to back away from the orange juice a bit. That would be kind of cool. I think it's this. So if oil was in a demand zone during ISM and the ISM number was below forecast, dollar CAD drops. Well, oil has nothing to do with ISM necessarily. But what it does is basically the ISM is linked to the dollar CAD, obviously, because of the US dollar, right? Oil is linked to the dollar CAD because obviously because of oil, and that's their main export, and that's where their economy is based off of. So the link kind of goes through a couple different things. I'd say more coincidence than anything else. Well, you have Orange Julius and Dairy Queen. Is that what you guys have? Yeah. But yeah, Wells Brothers. So, and same thing. News doesn't necessarily matter at all. I mean, it's going to bounce in these zones one way or the other. It's just how fast is it going to happen, and is it going to get driven there quicker? Is really kind of what it boils back down to. So, it doesn't necessarily matter. But again, if oil's in a demand zone, you should be more looking to buy oil. But understand this: if ISM is really, really bad and companies are cutting back, typically that also lowers the demand for oil because the number one way to get goods and services around is through freight. Okay, so when you start talking about things with oil, I mean, oil prices rise. People don't want to ship as much stuff unless they have to. When it's cheap, they don't necessarily care as much. Okay, when the economy's bad as well, they don't produce as much, which means they're also not shipping as much, which also means it brings the demand for oil down because the shippers don't need it. So there's a couple different linkings in there. But that's for people that are way smarter than me. I just look at supply and demand and say, hey, listen, last time I was here, this is what I saw, and again, this is what happens. So it's like that whole thing, like, the Han Solo thing. No mystical force is controlling my future. Kind of the same idea. All right. And then last but not least, let's look at CAD Yen. And what do we see with CAD Yen? Boom. Now, CAD Yen was a little bit harder to trade. Again, the zones were not really clear. We did have a bit of a zone here. It spent a long time there, so it wasn't the highest quality zone. You can see that it burst. Again, you can see one bounce off of it, came back up, grabbed some orders, and then just collapsed. And again, this was an oil release. You guys can see that, actually, I guess this started last night. About 126 pips to the downside. So, kind of a harder play. I mean, oil kicked in right here. So, I mean, most of this move had already actually happened. You can see we get a little bit of oil at the end, but this was basically a last night's story. Most of this move started happening at 1:30 in the morning. Okay. So, a lot of movement. I'm not going to say that this one is an oil-based one move today. This was way before oil actually kicked in. Okay. And again, that's probably whatever was happening, obviously blew right through the zone. So, and again, just so you guys understand too. Okay, why am I saying that's not a great zone? Hey, price popped off of it. Why wasn't it good? Well, because it spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Basically, it's formed with 10 candles. I mean, ideally, you want a zone that's formed with 2. I mean, if you could find one that's 1, sure, you can probably get on a lower time frame and it's more. But I mean, ideally, you want to get 2 to 3 is ideal. 10 is a long time at a level. Yes, it burst out of the top, but it's a long time at that level. So, I mean, your residual orders are going to eat up anyway. Okay. So where we are right now, again, I'd be looking more probably for somewhat of a retracement. This happened pretty quick. If it does pull up in bases around this wick over wick, you could potentially get into another short on this one. Just be cautious though. The profit target on this one or any downside trades are going to be 79.67. Okay, so don't think that you got tons and tons there. You got about 80 pips to the downside. The ATR on this one right now has kind of ticked up to 60, so it's over 1 day worth of movement. So it is going to be a slower trade. What I would do is probably check in on this one on Friday. Tomorrow there's no CAD news, but on Friday you have this trade balance. Again, the way to play the trade balance would be CAD yen. Okay, that'd be how you take advantage of that one on Friday. But for this point, I mean it's it's not even really necessarily going into anything. You guys can see, I mean it's basically clear right now to the downside. Okay, now you could pull this across. Yeah, that's the zone we had it in, right? I guess if we want to, let's do it off of that zone. Okay, if we can create some white space below this, then we could potentially take a continued short, right? With a profit target down to here. Not gonna be straight again. I just need like a straight. There we go. All right, so in something like this, you're looking at about 19 for 60. Something along those lines. Again, that's just kind of rough. You probably want to go in there and do a little more with it, but you guys get the point. If we get some type of clearance, a little bit of white space. All right. Again, if it just messes around and kind of goes sideways, I'm fine with that. If we're still sitting in the zone, I would like that a lot more for the news release on Friday. I think that would give us a pretty nice little opportunity, but we'll see how it kind of plays out, right? All right, so that was the last currency pairs. We went through oil, did a couple things differently. I mean, I guess I can look at this too, real fast. More indices. This is something else that somebody requested as well the other day. So looking about the dollar, okay? So let's bring the dollar back up to weekly, okay? So look where we're at with the dollar right now, okay? Looking to the left, where are we? Inside of kind of a gap area, and right above, oop, not that one. Bam. Okay, that is a weekly supply zone for the dollar, which is pretty interesting, right? So just be a little cautious of anything that are dollar strength based. Okay, it moves like molasses until it doesn't. You can say that about everything, right? Yeah. But again, dollar index, be slightly cautious. It is sitting inside of a supply zone. Okay. Daily, that same zone. If we go back, well, it's not going to let me go back that far. Oh, there we go. You guys can see that's kind of what we're looking at. We can shrink it a little bit. Go there. Right. Okay. There's dollar index, and we'll go over here. Whoops. Indices and S&P 500. Oh, look, 57% of people are net short. All right, same thing. Look kind of where we're at right now. Again, large move 2 days in a row. We do have some buyers here, but again, we do have some news coming up tomorrow. Now, looking at this one on the downside, though, I mean, you have a Pierce here, a Pierce here, a Pierce here. Make that smaller. Is there really a great kind of very, very clear kind of something like this? Not really, right? I mean, Pierce down, Pierce down, Pierce down again. This is lower. I mean, really, it's not really showing we have anything till really down towards like the 2800 area. Drop this down and look at it on a 4. Oh, is it not? Why is it not letting me do it now? No, I'm looking at it on something else. No. All right, it's not going to let me do it. No, I wanted some of these. I'm not sure why it's not letting me do it. But again, bring it down. You guys will see, little tiny bit of an area right here is where we're getting into. You guys can see it came up, pulled back, and then kind of took off. So something very, very tiny right here. Right? And that's kind of what we're entering into. So we'll kind of see, like I said, the dollar is sitting in a demand zone. Okay, this is in a supply zone. The S&P 500 is starting to sit into a demand zone. Okay, but if we break below, is there really anything clear from this zone? No, not until we're down to 2800. So just keep that in mind as far as really how the rest of the week is looking. All right, and that's it. All right, guys. So with that being said, it is 10:15 tomorrow night. We are going to do the early time, and again, this is basically for fall because of lacrosse games and because we can't get the field on Friday nights, our normal night. We had to move this one forward. So I'm playing at 8:30. So tomorrow night will be 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time for Chart School. All right. So if you can't get on till later, just go ahead and watch the replay. And what we'll do is we'll set up some of the 4-hour zones of things for Friday morning's news releases. All right. So thank you guys so much. I apologize for getting there a little bit late tonight. Tomorrow, 7 to 8, and I will catch you guys on Discord tomorrow. Oh, wait, hold on real quick. I almost forgot. I did it yesterday, too. I had it up. I had the whole thing there. Let's bring the scanner up so you guys can get a look at the scanner. I was supposed to go over it earlier, and I apologize that I didn't. Where is it? Is it right here? Bam, there we go. All right. I had these up last night. I was like, oh, I totally forgot to do that. So what you guys can see here is a lot of the Aussie pairs are downtrend setup situations. Okay, you're seeing anchor breaks though, so we can see that there are pullbacks. That's what's given us the downtrend setups. You guys can see a lot of the pound pairs are sideways. Okay, the only one is the pound CAD, which we don't typically cover. It's kind of a funky pair, so I don't want to really mess with that one. As far as the Aussie pairs go and the Aussie basket, you can see we have an uptrend setup on the daily, and again, we talked about that one. But again, at the same time, you're seeing a lot of breaks on the lower time frame, so it's a little bit more sideways. It's kind of it's in a transition period right now, and then again we have uptrend, or we have sideways with an uptrend on two different pairs, a downtrend setup on the Aussie dollar that I mentioned before, and a downtrend setup on the New Zealand dollar. So again, both of these are red with green pullbacks, looking for zones. Not that there was the best zones; we talked about that before. And then obviously euro dollar. I'm sorry, dollar yen. But dollar yen, we just kind of covered that one. We have downtrend, no setup, downtrend setup, downtrend setup. All right. Actually, I'm going to switch that because that. Let's see. Oh, it's not here. Hold on. It's manage instrument. Oh no, I think I had it right. Here we go. Text icons. There you go. That may be a little bit easier just to keep it consistent for you guys. This is the scanner you're asking about. You were asking about the settings for it, how we set it. This is actually something that a programmer developed for me. Not from me directly. It wasn't like it's not a standalone product that I have the only access to it. Like I don't have rights to it. It's something that you're able to purchase. It goes along with the Forex Masterclass, and it talks about different trend states as far as when we're looking to get in, sideways. There's anchor breaks in here, which I don't cover too much of. He's got a couple other things that are in there, but basically what it's meant to do is give you kind of a foreshadow of okay where we are. Couple ways to use it. Again, when you see squares, it basically means that we have a setup, right? This is a square with an X in it is a setup violation. So in this case, dollar CAD, it was a downtrend setup, but the anchor, again, some of the terminology from the Forex Masterclass, the anchor's been broken, right, to the upside. So we know that this is no longer valid. It's a different type of trade strategy, basically meaning it's time to go long on the dollar CAD. But what this doesn't take into consideration is there a demand zone or supply zone above and below where the zone is. So it's meant as purely as a scanner. It's not going to trade for you, just to make sure people realize that. But what it does is it scans all the charts for you unless you know where the opportunities are and where the opportunities are about to be at. I told you guys yesterday, kind of the hidden gem with this when you use it is figuring out which pattern comes right before the uptrend setup or the downtrend setup. Because in this case, the Aussie dollar, what it means is that price was on the daily, it's in a downtrend, but we have a green bar right now, meaning it's looking for orders. Okay. What you want to do is you want to catch the trend state before it gets that when it's in the downtrend state. When we're in the downtrend state, we know the next time it prints a candle, it's going to be a downtrend setup. Okay. So that's how you do set and forget trading when you can't be there. You say, okay, if price comes up to this zone, it will all of a sudden change to a downtrend setup because now it's green, which means I should be looking at the lower time frames. Well, you're doing the work ahead of time. You're finding the zones first. If it doesn't pull back, if it doesn't go to the next stage, guess what? You don't get filled because your order never got triggered, right? So it doesn't matter. It just expires and it just comes off. There's no harm, no foul. But if it does turn green on you, then what it does is it comes up, it grabs your orders. At the same time, the scanner just switched to a downtrend setup, and then you're off to the races. So that's kind of the best way to use the scanner. Okay. Now there's different settings. You can have it, refresh every minute, every 30 minutes, every 10 minutes, every 30 seconds. All those settings are inside of the thing as well. That's actually considered. That's in. I think it's this one here. Yeah. How often do you want to refresh, and where they'll automatically refresh. And you can set things like gap thresholds, and you can do your multiple things, and time frame. There's actually a weighting. Okay, and that goes into kind of the coloration on the side. Like I said, guy's a programmer. He has a bunch of extra things that I don't necessarily use, but he did some good work. All right. Oh, okay, cool. I'll be doing that class next. Yeah, that's a great class. It's something that I recommend it for everybody, and understand it's not just a forex class. It's basically how to read charts. Yeah, I should just rename it price action, not forex masterclass. I use forex charts because that's what I look at the most, and that's what I trade the most. I'm not. I don't necessarily like futures charts. I can trade them just fine. I mean, futures charts are no different as the guys here. I just am not a. I hate the fact that they expire and you have to change them all the time, and it's just annoying to me. Um, Currencies is the same all the time, doesn't change, no expirations, all that kind of stuff. Just in my eyes, it's easier. So, but it's all the same. Same way you trade it. Stocks, options, futures, forex, all traded exactly the same way with the same techniques that I teach in the forex master course or master class. Okay. All right, I'm going to bounce out of here. It is 10:20. Sorry for going a little bit late today, guys, but I got on a little bit late and we just want to get that information out. Ryan, I will see you tomorrow at what's in the thing? I think 1 o'clock my time. And you guys are going to be surprised. Ryan will be like, when you see him tomorrow night at chart school, his name will be glowing. um, yeah, right now, Vanessa, the forex masterclass is the price action class. I could name it futures and basically just change some charts, and it'd be the same exact thing. But I mean, there's no point in selling the same exact class under a different name. But yeah, Ryan will be glowing tomorrow, guys. You watch. You'll be like, wow, cool. So yeah, Ryan's doing some mentoring. Ryan turned in his pip chips, and he turned in his 250 pip chips, and because he was the first, he's going to get some extra time too. So we're gonna see if we can get his head on straight. He's doing a lot of things, got a lot of knowledge, and he told me that he can recite back all the steps. So I'm going to test that tomorrow. So he better be ready. There's a pop quiz, but don't tell him. All right, guys, I'm getting out here. You guys take care, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.